Australian Aviation Podcast, the official podcast of Australian Aviation, unpacking the latest insights, developments and issues impacting Australia's aviation sector.
Hello and welcome to the Australian Aviation Podcast. I am Jake Nelson and we have white smoke here in the podcast studio. We are getting some extractor fans to get that cleared up. But more importantly, we have found, after an extensive global search of 5 people who work in the same building as me, the replacement for Adam Thorne as the co-host of the Australian Aviation Podcast, the winner of our game of Thorns. So please welcome the new permanent co-host of the Australian Aviation Podcast, the deputy editor of Cyber Daily and Temu version of Adam Thorne, David Hollingworth.
I do not know how to respond to that. Hi, everyone. Temu? Are you saying you have a David Hollingworth at home? The David Hollingworth we have at home.
No, I'm saying that you're the Adam Thorne we have at home.
Oh, I'm still not sure how to take that one. But anyway, the king is dead. Long live the king.
Yes.
I cannot succeed Adam Thorne. I can only replace him.
Yes, arise, Aragorn, son of Adam Thorne.
That's me, yes.
So, David, how does it feel?
Hungry.
Hungry?
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't have any lunch, so I just feel hungry. That's kind of how I feel at the moment.
No, that's fair enough. But I see that you have also brought your Cyber Daily tradition of having a beer in the podcast studio.
You can't be a beer cast without a beer. It's inescapable logic.
That's very... Now, I never called it a beer cast.
You see, my side of the table is definitely a beer cast.
Well, that's fair enough. So we should get started right away because we've got a couple of weeks of news to cover.
2 weeks of news because, there's a whole lot of stuff. We were just going through this before the show and it's just Jake just sitting there ticking 1, 2, 3, 4. Yep, so let's get into it.
Yeah, there's so much to cover, starting with the reason why I was not here in the studio last week, why we had our fantastic podcast that we pre-recorded back in, I think, August. Late July, early August with Captain Michelle Huntington of Virgin Australia. Did you have a chance to have a look at that one?
No, I've not. No. How was it? Have you had a listen?
It was very, very good. You know, she's great to have on the show. Mm-hmm. Lots of fantastic stories about her time in the aviation industry and what came after. So if you haven't seen that one from last week, go back and have...
Sounds like a banger.
It is a banger. So go back and have a listen to that and a watch of that if you haven't.
But you've been traveling.
I have been traveling. The reason why I was not here last week is because I was... flying across the country, or flying rather back across the country after a trip to Perth with Virgin Australia, because Virgin Australia has finally, after years in the making, at least a year in the making, taken delivery and is now getting ready to put into service its first E190-E2 VH-E2A Coral Bay.
What's the story with this aircraft? Why is it so special?
Well, this aircraft is a next-generation regional jet. It's the second generation of the Embraer E190, which flies with airlines around Australia, including Alliance, Qantas Link, National Jet Express.
Yeah, I've flown Embraers.
Yeah. So this is the next generation of the E190, and it's got a bunch of improvements over its predecessor. But it is going into Virgin Australia Regional Airlines, which is the western sort of regional arm of Virgin, and it is going to be replacing the old Fokkers, the ancient Fokker 100s.
Fokkers everywhere.
Yeah, it's the old Fokkers are going out the door, and the E190-E2s are going to replace them.
Is that on particular legs or just...
So... completely. They are phasing out the Fokkers by the end of the year.
Yeah.
And these E190-E2s are going to replace them. Now, this was a marathon trip for for VH-E2A. Started out at Embraer's factory in Brazil, flew via Texas, LA, Hawaii, Fiji, and Canberra. I had the privilege of being on the last leg from Canberra.
That'd be a hell of a flight to be on the whole thing, though.
Yeah. No, I mean, we talked to one cabin crew member, Tash, who was and Tash was, by the way, the flight attendant who featured in our short video in which she took us through the features of the E190-E2 from the passenger perspective. And I do want to give a shout out and a thank you to Tash and to the crew on the Embraer E190-E2, to the captains, or to the pilots, Andy and Brett, to all the people at Virgin Australia. Thank you very much for having us along, and to all the people at Embraer. This was a remarkable thing. You know, there was a lot of work that went into this, and they have done a very good job. But this is going into service next month. It's going to be flying charter services and FIFO services, and it will also be supporting commercial routes to destinations like Darwin, Kalgoorlie, Karratha, Port Hedland, Broome. Hints as well that as they build up this E2 fleet over time, they're going to be looking at expanding these across the national network.
Gotcha.
So this
is no small thing.
It's no small thing. It's a small jet, but it's not a. I think Nick Rawlack, Virgin Australia Regional Airlines executive, has basically said that this is a jumbo jet experience in like a boutique jet package.
Yeah, so does that add up? How's the in-cabin experience?
The in-cabin experience is very, very nice.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the first. It had the new plane smell, and we love the new plane smell.
Yep.
But the seats, surprisingly roomy for being on a regional jet. Like the seats that they have on the E2 are the same size as you would have on an A320.
Okay.
And they are in a 2-2 configuration, so there is no middle seat. You are in.
That I like a lot.
Yeah, you're in the window, and you're at the window, or you're on the aisle.
Yeah.
And
not that it's much of an issue on a domestic flight, but still, it's nice.
Yeah, and they've got some business class seats up the front as well.
Oh wow, okay.
Which are in 1-2. And so they can use this. They can deploy this with the business class seats sort of across more than just the FIFO services. Although I have to say, if you're flying FIFO and you're sitting in one of the business class seats, jackpot.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
But it was very, very comfortable, very, very quiet. I mean, I was sitting right in front of the engines on that plane. Practically right in front of the engines, and it was just whisper quiet. Could not hear engines at all. Could not hear the engines. There was still noise, but it was coming from the cabin pressurization system, not the engines. Like I could not hear the engines. And at the press conference, actually, they had at the Perth hangar afterwards, one of the old, some old Fokker took off, and we could just hear the engines screaming overhead.
It's absolute roar of aircraft. It's like,
this thing is so quiet. And the seats are very comfortable. There's a few, teething problems that they have to work out. The pouch, like the pocket on the back of the seats, does not stretch for some reason, and I think they're going to have to change that in future deliveries. But it's like you can't fit anything in there besides the information cards,
because that's where you put your iPad or your laptop or your phone.
No device holder as well that I could see.
That just sounds like something they'll work out.
It's something that they'll work out. They hadn't turned on the Wi-Fi yet. They're going to turn that on in 2026. But I was able to make my own entertainment. The service was wonderful. The experience was wonderful. I got to go up the front and talk to the pilots, Andy and Brett, and
you got to do the thing.
I got to do the thing because it was a private flight. I got to do the thing. I got to talk to the pilots, and I interviewed Andy, the captain on the flight, and you might have seen that in our videos on YouTube and on socials.
Excellent.
And it was just a wonderful experience. The E2 flight was a great experience. Cannot say the same for the flight down to Canberra. Which was on a Link Airways Saab 340B. Yeah. Nothing wrong with the service.
It's a perfectly fine aircraft.
It's a perfectly fine aircraft.
I flew in one of those.
And the cabin crew was very nice. We got like a breakfast bar or something on the way down. Yeah. But the landing. If you've never flown into Canberra on a Saab on a windy morning,
good.
You
know what they say: any landing you walk away from is a good one.
Yeah,
even if it was on wobbly legs.
Yeah, if you've never flown into Canberra on a Saab on a windy morning, good.
Because it comes in sideways.
Yeah,
it's hard. It's a bone rattler.
If I'd had fillings, I would have had to get them replaced. And I was in cold sweats as we were taxiing.
So one of our colleagues is a very, very nervous flyer.
Ben, we had him on the podcast the other week.
Yeah, and watching him on that flight into Canberra in particular is just...
Because
I hate to say it, but it is actually hilarious. He is comedically afraid of flying.
Yeah. But these new E2s, they are 30% more fuel efficient than the Fokkers. They have the lowest noise profile of any aircraft in the segment. They're certified for up to 50% SAF, sustainable aviation fuel.
I was about to ask, what are its emissions qualities? Yeah.
So the emissions are much lower, even than the E190-E1. They are certified for up to 50% sustainable aviation fuel. They are capable of operating on 100% sustainable aviation fuel.
Wow.
They could open up routes for VARA in the eastern states. They could theoretically be deployed on short-haul international. It's Nathan Miller, who's the executive GM of VARA, on the flight over. He was saying that, in a unique circumstance, yes, maybe they could do short-haul international. He said that I've had a few people asking me, would we operate this to Bali? The reality is, in that market, this is probably not the right aircraft. I think there are better aircraft like the 737-800s and MAX 8s. He said, if you look at it more along the lines of what Scoot are doing, because Scoot has brought in the E2.
Yeah.
If there's a niche opportunity where a long, thin route, which would only service 100 people, that might very well be the sort of thing that we look at. So,
yeah, okay. So
but the range on the E2 is great. The cabin experience is very nice. It's so quiet. Kudos to Virgin and kudos to Embraer for getting
it sounds like a
out.
really, really wise investment.
And I'm not just saying that because they struck me with my
they
one
gave
weakness.
you a pin.
They did give me a pin.
They hit you right in your weakness.
Yeah, I'm so as Adam Thorn would attest, I'm so easy to buy.
Yeah.
But no, congratulations to Virgin on all of that. And as well, congratulations to Virgin, by the way, on being named the most trusted travel brand in Australia for the third year running.
Like, it still weirds me that Qantas lost that so handily.
It used to be Qantas.
Yeah.
So like for
and I used to be a Qantas
while.
person for all of my travel, like, and not just out of some weird sense of nationalistic loyalty to it. I thought they were the best to fly with, and back then they were. But oh man, it's just night and day between them and pretty much any other of the top 5 airlines at the moment.
Well, it's according to Roy Morgan, it's basically these awards go to brands which had exceptional years with high levels of trust and exceedingly low or negligible levels of distrust.
Yeah.
So Michelle Levine, the chief executive of Roy Morgan, says that the three-peat shows, quote, that the airline has powered out of the pandemic period with a reputation for trust far ahead of its rivals in the sector. Travelers rated the airline highly for trust. Rated the airline hairily for trust. Credited the Virgin Australia as down-to-earth, approachable with a good track record, the most reliable of airlines in terms of flight times. When cancelled, they're quick to offer compensation without being prompted.
Yeah, that's the big one.
Yeah.
The last time I got compensation from Qantas for a string of cancellations, which I believe you were a part of that one, where me and Adam rocked up and we were in Canberra Airport. I think you might have been with us.
not.
No. Anyway, so Adam was definitely there and was like, what's going on? And they literally
I think Adam did talk
threw
about
us
it on the
drink
podcast.
vouchers. Just like, okay, we'll use that, of course, but do better.
I mean, they could have at least given you lounge access.
At least, yeah.
And by the way, I did get to test out the Virgin Lounges in Canberra and Perth.
How is the Virgin Lounge?
Virgin Lounges in Canberra and Perth, very nice. Canberra, I think, is the nicer of the lounges. But, neither lounge is anything to be sneezed at.
A lounge is a lounge.
Yep. And I managed to use my travel hack again on the flight back to get a free upgrade to Economy X on the 737-700, by the way, which is Virgin Australia doesn't have a lot of those. Very similar to the 800s, but slightly shorter.
Yeah.
But one travel tip is if you wait to select your seat until some like maybe the night before or something like that, there is at least a semi-decent chance that you can get a free upgrade to Economy X, at least in the exit rows. Because now this was not in an exit row, which surprised me, and I actually got the whole row to myself. Because
the jackpot.
Yeah, the jackpot.
There is nothing better than
a whole premium economy row to myself, which was very nice.
Yeah.
But especially on the exit rows, like the airlines need to fill those rows, and if you are willing to sit in an exit row, you can get the benefits of that extra leg room. Without having to pay more because the airlines need to have people there.
As well.
Yeah.
That's a good hack. I'm always happy to sit in an exit row.
Yeah. So if you're prepared to sit there, then great. But surprisingly, I managed to get it in a non-exit row, right behind the business class.
Very
section.
impressive.
So, great experience I had with Virgin. And congratulations to Virgin on the E2. Congratulations to Virgin on most trusted
Yes,
brand.
bravo.
We are going to take our first quick break, but when we come back, we will be talking about more of the week's news. Back in a moment. Right, welcome back. You're listening to the Australian Aviation Podcast with our new replacement, Adam Thorn, David Hollingworth.
G'day.
Now, David, we were talking about this as well shortly before the podcast started, but big news this week just came out today.
Ago,
in fact,
yes.
Tuesday, as we're recording this. Well, it came out last night, but I'd already finished work. Sydney Airport is linking, or it's planning to link its domestic and its two T2 and T3 domestic terminals.
So that's Qantas and
everything that is
everything
Qantas.
else. Yeah.
So T3 is Qantas, T2 is Virgin, Jetstar, all of the others. Now T2 is going through a bit of a renovation at the moment.
So that's interesting because I'm just trying to picture this in my head. You drive up to T2 and you take that long curve around to T3, right?
So maybe I don't tend to drive to the airport. I take the train in. But if you come up from the airport, if you come from the train station, you've got the tunnel
from the inner west. Yeah.
So you get the tunnel that goes to either T2 or T3.
Oh, of course.
And so they are basically they're very, very close to one another, the terminal buildings at either end. So, what they're basically going to do is, whack a connection between those two buildings, add some more gates. And I think these will be, international or swing gates like they're having at Western Sydney.
Swing gates? What's a swing gate? Because I don't know.
So a swing gate, and this is going to be...
Sounds like something you'd have at a party.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it? But basically at Western Sydney International Airport, and this is going to bring it sort of more in line with WSI, I think these gates might be able to switch between the two. But basically a swing gate is where it can be domestic or it can be international depending on what is needed.
Oh, okay.
So if you're using the swing gate for an international flight, you can basically seal it off from the rest of the domestic section,
right?
So that domestic passengers can't get in, and it's security. It's sterile for international passengers. International passengers can come in, but you can't get directly between it and the domestic section.
Gotcha, understood.
And they will have sort of extra gates and sort of extra processing facilities and
How
extra
many more
stuff.
gates do we know yet?
So they're looking to put in up to 12 gates at the T2, T3 Franken-terminal.
Yeah.
And up to around 2 more gates at T1, which is the dedicated international terminal. Yeah. So these new gates will be able to service most planes. They won't be able to service the A380s. Those will have to go over to T1.
Of course.
But most of the the larger international aircraft, these will be able to handle. It's like the 787s and the A330s and all of that. But this is, and we were talking about it in the office earlier, it's kind of strange that they haven't done it already, given how close the terminals are to one another. And, a lot of the airports, or at least some of the airports around Australia, well, I know Brisbane at least. Brisbane, at least, the domestic terminal, you can walk from one end to the other and, past the Virgins and the Jetsstars and the Qantases. Perth is looking to move its Qantas flights into the airport central precinct, and they are actually they've actually announced some developments to put in some new automatic check-in kiosks and things like that with biometric screening. But Perth is looking to move all of its Qantas things away from the current terminal and into the airport central precinct. Melbourne still has separate terminals. But once this is all done, you'll be able to just walk straight around, and all of the flights will be coming into.
So with more gates, does that mean? So basically, why are they doing this? They want to increase capacity. I'm guessing that's the reason.
They will want to, because they're predicting that by 2045, there will be growth of 75% in passenger capacity.
What about aircraft noise? Because as somebody who lives in the area and who is very well aware of living under the flight path.
Well, look, we don't talk about aircraft noise here on the podcast.
Oh, I'm sorry.
We talk about the purring of the sky kittens.
What about the purring of the sky kittens?
That's something that they will have to look at. I think that flight paths are already sort of being rejigged and rearranged a bit to accommodate WSI, which is set to open at the end of next year. But it will be... potentially more aircraft coming in. The tricky thing, of course, when you think about more aircraft coming in, is also the cap and the curfew. Caps and curfews at Sydney Airport will restrict the number of planes that can come in. You can't have planes coming in overnight, and you can only have so many aircraft movements per hour.
And there's only so much runway to accommodate.
Accommodate them. Sydney has, I think, 3 runways, but so that's sort of the situation. And it will bring the whole, again, Franken-terminal in line with WSI. It will bring it in line with places like Brisbane, at least domestically. Brisbane doesn't have swing gates, but we did actually have one sort of amusing comment on our social media pages, being like, "Oh, are they going to link it seamlessly with the T1 International Terminal?" I can tell you probably no, they're not, because that is on the other side of the runway.
That would be impressive.
It would be impressive. Just like, I don't know,
one long travel later going underneath the entire air.
Yeah, or just maybe have like a drawbridge, or like like a
lifts up
pedestrian bridge that like
aircraft comes through, just thump aircraft.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
Or maybe have like a level crossing. The gates descend and ding, ding, ding.
Yeah,
ding,
I like that. That's perfectly safe. So I'm guessing it's gonna. I know this is not something you're interested in, because I'm guessing it's going to mean more bars on the concourse as well.
Probably.
Excellent.
They would probably be adding more retail space and things like that. And I know that T3 is getting some more shops. T2 is undergoing a bit of an overhaul. I actually, when I flew out last week to Canberra, Rex has been shunted over to the Qantas terminal for the time being. And so the Link Airways flight that I boarded was actually out of, I think, supposed to be a Rex gate.
Gotcha.
So we took the bus out to the Link Airways. They had a bit of trouble with the Sabre system, the booking system.
Oh no.
It was on the blink when we were trying to board the plane, and so it was the first flight of the day. The first flight of the day out of that gate, and the poor airport staff were trying to they were trying to cross swords with Sabre, but got foiled, and I bet they weren't very épais about that.
Well done. You got all 3 in there. Nice.
Thank you. But yes, this will be, so getting back to the terminal expansion. This will be the largest, the most significant development at Sydney Airport since the Olympics. It will, according to Scott Charlton, who is the CEO, it will unlock greater capacity across all the terminals, more efficient use of runways, get passengers from the ground and into the air more quickly. He says that they're committed to managing sky-kit and purring, taking steps to reduce emissions footprints, working closely with residents, councils and government to make sure that the benefits of the growth are shared. And yeah, Sydney is doing this big $200 million renovation to the T2 terminal. Like, I had to... It was weird going through, like, security and bag drop downstairs was sort of at the other end of the baggage hall.
Oh, that's weird.
Yeah, so had to sort of go around and then go upstairs. And I think again they were using a Rex gate for that. So it's a bit of an odd time if you're at Sydney Airport.
Yeah, are we expecting any disruption to the operations of Terminal 2 and 3 while this is happening?
Well,
I can't imagine it's going to be scot-free.
They're probably not. Probably there will be some things that need to be jigged around, because I mean, at the moment, again, Rex has been shunted off to Terminal 3.
Yeah, good point.
So it's going to be it's going to be interesting to see that all come together.
And when's the end date? Proposed end date?
I'm not sure. I think there's been reports like 2035 maybe for this to be all completed, like 10 years
long term.
Yeah, but it's obviously a very significant project. I think
and very forward looking.
Yeah, I think back in the day the T2 was the Ansett terminal.
Yes, it was.
Yeah, and so you can understand that T2 and T3 were separate back then, because Ansett and Qantas
we didn't play nice.
Yeah, they would have been sort of marching down the concourse towards each other, snapping their fingers.
When you're a jet for life.
Yeah, and when you fly jets. So. We'll keep an eye on this, because it's a very interesting plan, and and hopefully for Sydney Airport, it will sort of help keep it up to date and compete with what WSI is doing. Because WSI has basically. WSI has a lot of advantages over Sydney Airport.
Incredibly modern.
It's very, very modern, and it's located out west where there's plenty of room to expand. Sydney Airport is very, very constrained by the harbour and the city around it.
And getting to Sydney Airport's fine for me. I live in the inner west, so it's wonderful. Whereas for most Sydney-siders, they're out in suburbs, they're out in the west, so having an airport close to them is remarkable.
On the subject of Sydney Airport, have you had to take? You mentioned driving in from the inner west and things like that. Have you taken taxis from Sydney Airport?
All the time. Yeah, that's how I do it. So a cab in and a cab out. Yeah.
What's sort of the biggest ouch that you've had from a taxi at Sydney Airport?
Oh, it's going there fine. Leaving is sometimes double, and it's always just it hits the hip pocket hard. But I heard something about this. They're making changes to that.
They are making changes.
Yeah.
So starting from the 3rd of November, there will be a 12-month trial of fixed cab fares from the airport to the city.
Now, by and large, I do get to claim this back because most of my travel is work travel. So those cabs I can claim. But even then, that's so good. I like that.
Yeah. So starting from the 3rd of November, taxi rides between the airport and the CBD will cost a flat fare of $60. $60 and that's it. And you cannot pass on any charges, any tolls, anything like that to the passengers.
That's just to the CBD?
That's just to the CBD.
Okay.
So from the airport to the CBD, it will be $60 and that is it. And that
$60.
And that, comes after this taxi fare hotline was launched by the New South Wales government in 2022. Since then, the point-to-point commissioner has issued more than 1,100 fines to taxi drivers.
God.
One of them was fined $2,000 for refusing to turn on the meter and charging a family $188.76 from the international terminal to a hotel in the CBD.
Wow.
Yeah.
I have by and large, I have a lot of sympathy for cab drivers. They deal with a lot of horrible customers. They're dealing with everything that Uber's doing to them. Very little sympathy for that cab driver. Very little.
Yeah, no, that's sort of taking the piss at that point, isn't it?
Yeah.
But and there's been stories of cab drivers sort of hanging around in the arrivals hall, touting their services and things like that, and passengers, constantly being slugged with these huge fares, and taxi drivers refusing to turn on their meters and things like that.
Yeah.
So,
and you get a lot of aggro at those taxi ranks as well.
Yeah,
because they're all jockeying for the next passenger, right? And if they think they're being hard done by the marshal, the taxi marshal, they'll get to stand up fight. So you're just sitting there in between this horrible little fight. And you're just jet lagged, wanting to get home. Just please, the love of God.
Yeah.
Get in the cab and they're still angry, and it's like, I want to get out. I've had this happen to me. It's horrible.
Yeah. So this should hopefully cut down on that.
Do we know what the response from the cab drivers has been?
The Taxi Council has welcomed this. The New South Wales Taxi Council says that the chief executive, Nick Abraham, says he believes that these flat fares will, quote, provide certainty and confidence for passengers when travelling in a taxi from the airport. He says, pending the success of the trial, we would like to see the set fares extended to other locations across Sydney, as well as reciprocated for trips coming back to the airport.
Yeah.
So they want the Taxi Council wants this certainty as well. And if the trial is deemed successful, it will be made permanent.
Yeah.
Now, I don't, generally speaking, take taxis from the airport. I take the train.
Yeah.
Which is a whole other kettle of fish.
It is, yes.
I mean, something needs to be done about the station access fee at the station.
Oh, it's ludicrous.
It is insane. Yeah. And the government is already subsidizing. I mean, the only reason that from Green Square and Mascot there is no station access fee is because the government is paying it.
Yeah.
So there needs to be something done about this. I don't remember off the top of my head when the contract expires with the people who are running these, but it's shocking. And transport from the airport is often so expensive around the country. I mean, the Brisbane air train. I think that they had
the Melbourne bus,
the Sky Bus.
Yeah.
Yes,
the Sky Bus, I will say, is out of all of those systems probably one of the most reliable and simple to do, and it takes you to a good central location in Melbourne City itself.
Yes.
But in terms of paying that much money for a bus ride, it's a lot of money.
It is a lot of money.
Yeah.
And of course, the rail link has been delayed.
Yeah,
so it's Sky Buses for at least the next few years. Now, Sky Bus, I think, is ramping up its services and adding new services out there. But Brisbane, Melbourne, Perth actually is sort of an exception because the Perth government, I believe, runs the airport line that just opened a year or two ago.
Okay.
And the Perth airport train line is very nice, and it's sort of in line with the rest of the city.
Gotcha.
So Perth is doing it right. Everyone else is taking the piss a little.
And it's something you don't really notice until you start traveling a lot internationally,
is.
just how much better all those large international airports are. Like
Yeah.
getting
Well,
getting from Heathrow to London, for instance, is just such a lovely experience.
And on the subject, I mean, talking about the taxis, JFK, Paris, they all have fixed taxi
Yeah,
fares.
they do. Yeah.
And so, as Scott Charlton, the CEO of Sydney Airport, was saying, this brings it in line with these international
Yes.
airports. But
yeah.
look, I'm not knocking the public transport services.
No.
The public transport services for the airport. I mean, except the fact that Melbourne doesn't have a train. The public transport services, by and large, pretty good, but need to bring
Could be
those-
better.
Could be better, and
Yeah.
and could be cheaper.
Look, it beats the hell out of Marrakesh Airport, where you will almost certainly get mugged waiting for a cab that never arrives, and then someone who just has a car and no license to drive it will get you into town for €200.
So Uber.
Yeah, effectively, yeah.
There was Tim Minchin had a routine, back in the day about illegal mini cabs in London, which he said, basically just dudes in cars who are taxi drivers in the same way that my mate Pete is a pharmacist. But that's just Uber now. We just have those now. And those are
He's not wrong.
Yeah. Now, getting back to the subject of the major airlines,
Yes.
moving away from the airports, we've had some figures come out about executive pay and bonuses.
Yes, this one's quite interesting. There's a bit of crossover, this one.
There is, because Qantas has seen its short-term bonuses for executives, including Vanessa Hudson, the CEO, cut by 15% because of
A cybersecurity incident of their massive data breach, which affected all of their frequent flyer customers, including probably you and I.
possibly. I
me.
haven't had any emails.
Oh, really?
From them
I got
to
two.
say that I was confirmed. I'd have to go and
I
double
have
check.
confirmed to have lost all of my frequent flyer data. They know my meals preferences, my frequent flyer history. It's all out there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So because of this, short-term bonuses were cut by 15 percentage points. Vanessa Hudson herself is taking a $250,000 cut to her short-term bonus.
How little of her pay is left after this?
Well, in total, Hudson is getting $6.3 million for the 2025 financial year. That is up from $4.4 million last year. And that $4.4 million was affected by the stuff around the illegal outsourcing.
Yeah.
So the executive pay was slashed last year because of the illegal outsourcing.
How will she cope?
It's a mystery. Alan Joyce has received his final pay packet from Qantas. Because he had sort of options and bonuses going forward. But
and that was a not insignificant sum, wasn't it?
Yeah, $3.8 million for Alan Joyce. Base executive pay is up 3%. Long-term bonuses have also risen because the share price has gone up a fair bit in the last few years, and I guess fair enough. But John Mullen, the chair of Qantas Group, said in the annual report, quote, while management took immediate action to contain the breach, and we've spoken about this.
We have, yes.
This is not me.
They
quoting from John
moved fast.
They moved fast.
I will give that to them. And every expert I've spoken to, both in terms of cybersecurity and PR and crisis comms, has said that Qantas' response, at least to the initial breach, was top notch. And,
Yes.
and yeah, I still agree.
But getting back to John Mullen, John Mullen said, while management took immediate action to contain the breach, support customers, and put additional protections in place in recognition of the seriousness of the incident, we decided to reduce 2024-25 short-term bonuses by 15 percentage points for the CEO and executive management. He said, this decision demonstrates our commitment to creating a culture of accountability and ownership. Now, executive bonuses. Now, Mullen did also note this $90 million fine that was imposed for the outsourcing on top of the $120 million compensation. But the executive bonuses are not going to be cut because of that this year.
Yeah.
Because basically, what Qantas says is we already cut the bonuses because of that last year. Vanessa Hudson lost $450,000 from her bonuses for that year, for example. Mullen said, Qantas, and again, this is a direct quote, Qantas has accepted the court's decision and has paid the fine and compensation, bringing closure on the matter. The board comprehensively dealt with the remuneration consequences for management from this matter in 2023-24. So that is the situation at Qantas. What do you make of as the deputy editor of Cyber Daily? What do you make of?
Look, cutting pay is a great look, right?
Yeah.
It's a big mea culpa. But at the end of the day, it really isn't going to impact someone at that level of pay. You cut their pay by half, and they're still stratospherically better off than the average Australian whose data was caught up in that attack. We already know that there are a couple of class actions pending, which I must say I'm a part of one because my data was impacted. Yep. Really, I'd like them to be saying what they're doing with that money, i.e. putting it into greater cybersecurity resilience and maturity. But the problem is the people who went after them, by the way, they have formed a new hacking group. They've gone after a whole mess of luxury brands like Balenciaga and Alexander McQueen, and have also now retired from hacking. It's a whole thing. I could do an entire podcast on that. But yeah, that's a whole other thing. And you
probably will.
And I probably will. Yeah, absolutely. Probably do that on Thursday with Dan. Yeah.
Tune into the Cyber Daily podcast, by the way. Cross-promotion.
Yeah.
Cross-promotion, harmonious collaboration between the brands at Momentum Media.
Look, ultimately, they're looking at their bottom line going, we screwed up and we're going to do something about it. So I think it's a bit of a PR Band-Aid at this point. But as mea culpas go, yeah, I guess it's good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, on the subject of executive pay, moving over to Virgin Australia, the most trusted brand, travel brand in Australia for 30 years running. Most trusted overall brand, by the way, Bunnings Warehouse.
Well, I mean, you can't knock a sausage sandwich.
You cannot, though. There has been, a bit of a hit to Bunnings' reputation lately because of, I think, a Four Corners or a 7:30 thing about how they're, basically alleging bullying tactics or not so much bullying tactics as like squeezing smaller competitors out of business and screwing over suppliers, things like that.
I can kind of understand that, actually. The sheer buying might of Bunnings is right up there with, say, JB Hi-Fi when it comes to that kind of consumer goods, right? Big stores, big buying power. You just go there and a smaller store just can't compete.
Yeah. But Bunnings still the most trusted brand in Australia. Yep. Anyway, back to Virgin.
Yes.
Talking of executive pay, total remuneration for the former Virgin Australia CEO, Jane Hrdlicka, just shy for her final year of $50 million.
What the heck?
$50 million in the final pay packet for Virgin Australia, or final full year pay packet. I don't know if she's got long-term bonuses and things like that. She may be getting paid for a little while afterwards, but for the 2024 financial year, $50 million for Jane Hrdlicka, which is not a bad payday, is it?
Sorry, I'm trying to take in that whole. That's why.
Well, actually, a few reasons.
Yeah.
I mean, Jane Hrdlicka was at the helm. She did guide Virgin through the year leading up to its IPO, which was very successful. She did hand it over to Dave Emerson, but the judgment was, she set Virgin up very, very well for the IPO. Of course, there was that big deal with Qatar Airways. Qatar has taken something like a 25% stake in Virgin, and they've got these wet leased flights now going to Doha. This deepened partnership with Qatar Airways that has set Virgin Australia up, returned it to long haul flying, all of that. Over 5 years at the helm, she's had quite a few achievements. In the annual report, it says, quote, during her tenure, Jane successfully led the group's exit from voluntary administration, stand up of the airline following the COVID-19 pandemic, and the transformation of Virgin Australia into a profitable and sustainable business. In addition, during FY25, Jane led Virgin Australia's deepest strategic partnership with the Qatar Airways Group, including a 25% equity investment and enhanced strategic alliance. So from that perspective, you would say that she deserves a bit of a reward.
I mean, a clap on the back.
Yeah.
Absolutely. A golden handshake on the way out. No problem. Lifelong membership to the
Beyond Lounges.
Lounge, all of that, absolutely fine. It just seems a bit excessive. And I'm getting my Bolshe hat on here. It's a very furry hat with a red star on it. It's too much. You look at all of these pay packets, you halve them, these individuals still end up stupendously rich.
Yeah.
And the money that could be put into useful things, just given to charity, put into a sovereign wealth fund. I don't know, anything better than another yacht for the boss. Yeah.
Well, now in fairness, Virgin has been looking after its workers as well.
Okay, that's good.
In a few ways, they've given or at least a large swathe of the employees at Virgin have been given $3,000 in share options. So,
that's not insignificant. Those kind of share offerings are usually the realm of big corporates who give their C-suites and senior staff share options and stuff like that.
So they've been given $3,000 in share rights, which basically like they can claim these. They don't have to pay for them. They are entitled to them as part of their pay packets. And they will get them a little ways down the line. I think Qantas has also given $1,000 in shares to a bunch of its employees, which is nice. But I will say that the TWU, big surprise, agrees with you. The TWU has generally been, more supportive of Virgin than it has been of Qantas. The TWU and Qantas have bad blood.
It's bad thoughts.
But Michael Caine, the National Secretary of the TWU, said.
Sorry, who?
Michael Caine.
Michael Caine,
yeah.
Okay, good.
The National Secretary with a K.
Makes all the difference.
National Secretary of the TWU said that the annual report is an encouraging sign of the future of a strong airline, but did question Hrdlicka's payout. The union says that Hrdlicka's remuneration will, quote, bear significant weight when it comes to discussions on fatigue management, rostering, and pay-ins ahead of 2026 bargaining with pilots, ground and cabin crew. So the union's basically saying, hey, if you can afford to pay her $50 million, you can afford to give your workers some better conditions. And fair enough.
Yes.
Michael Caine said, quote, what is eye-watering to the average aviation worker as well as the Australian public is the near $50 million pay packet now handed out to former CEO Jane Hrdlicka. He said, we cannot continue to see CEOs and executives in aviation pocket obscene salaries while the industry is at breaking point.
Yeah, I mean, I believe that across the board, but particularly when it comes to, as our friend Michael Caine, has pointed out, that money can be better spent elsewhere.
And on that note, we're going to go for another quick break, but when we're right back, we'll be talking more about the news. I saved it. Back in a second. Welcome back. This is the Australian Aviation Podcast. I'm Jake Nelson. We're with David Hollingworth from Cyberdelli, the new replacement Adam Thorn, with less hair but
more presence.
Less hair but more presence, something like that.
Yeah.
We'll workshop it.
Yeah.
Now, talking of passengers, talking of consumers, we've had the Consumer Protection Plan come out from the government.
Oh, yes.
The draft for public consultation on the proposed airline customer protection scheme, which notably does exclude this European-style pay-on-delay compensation. So the government isn't ruling it out,
but doesn't want to do it yet.
Yeah, so airlines will be held to minimum standards of consumer protection, which will include prompt refunds, accommodation, transport, and meal vouchers when needed. The minister told Sunrise the other week, she says, quote, it will basically say, this is what you should expect as a passenger in terms of rebooking time, quick and prompt refunds, accommodation, transport if you need it, or a meal voucher if that's what you need. And this is the sort of things and the timeliness with which you can expect it. She said, what we're trying to do is in the immediate circumstances where people are delayed, have lost their baggage, trying to really get that done quickly, rather than often people are trying to days, sometimes weeks and months later, trying to get some form of redress, trying to get it quickly. Now, the minister said that compensation schemes, again, not ruled out, but not currently on the agenda. She says, we in a market that's pretty small, we had to weigh up how do we, in the moment, get remedies to people quickly versus what happens with schemes where costs are potentially passed on to the traveling public. She said, in Europe, there's a compensation scheme that is defrayed across millions of passengers, hundreds of airlines. We've got a much smaller market. We think we've got the balance right here, making sure people get immediate remedies to rectify the situation that they're in. She says, we haven't ruled out doing that. This European scheme, but really what this is about is lifting the standards overall to make sure passengers get a better experience when they're traveling, because at the end of the day, they are at the heart of what airlines and airports are doing, and we want to make sure that passenger experience is as best as it can be.
Which all makes sense, but going back to that golden pay packet of $50 million, I mean, some of that money could be going towards a compensation scheme.
It could.
Yeah.
Or, could be going towards improving passenger experience, could be going towards, getting, maybe looking at more of those shiny new planes. I mean,
exactly,
$50 million, I don't know how many planes that could pay for.
Some, I'm sure.
Maybe at least one.
Yes.
At least a small one.
Yes.
I don't know what the price tag is on new planes. I really should. But, maybe arranging for some new aircraft leases or something like that. I've sort of argued in favor of a consumer compensation scheme in the past. I did in an op-ed in previous issue of the magazine. What do you think, dude? Should we have a compensation scheme, EU style or Canada style? If there is a significant delay or a cancellation for reasons within the airline's control, should the airline be expected to cough up compensation in addition to a refund?
I would say yes. I don't think saying that our market is too small is a really good argument, because our market is large enough that we can give these incredible payouts to airline executives. So if it's big enough for that, then it's big enough to look after the customers. That's just my opinion. And even that whole food voucher thing can sometimes be just a real struggle. You had your flight delayed by a few hours, and you feel bad for asking for something in return.
Yeah.
When really, you shouldn't feel bad or be made to feel bad, because you have purchased a service, which is to get on an aircraft at a certain time to take you to a certain destination.
No. You've purchased a bundle of contractual rights, saying that you will get to your destination at some point.
We'll get you there eventually.
Yeah,
it's just not good enough, and I think we've seen that with the response to Qantas's years of just woeful performance in terms of cancelled flights and just general crappiness. So yeah, I'm all for something which lets a customer know that if something goes wrong, they'll be looked after. I mean, that's just basic customer service.
Yeah, exactly. And there's arguments. Oh, will this be passed on to passengers or things like that? I think the studies that have come out of Europe, or the research that's come out of Europe, has said that the impact on airfares is negligible.
It would be. Yeah. And also, it's going to be a driver to make sure that these airlines don't do that. The best way not to have to pay out to customers for late flights or cancelled flights is to not have late or cancelled flights. So
now, one concern that has been raised is, for example, maintenance issues are something that is within an airline's control.
Yeah.
I believe so. Is it going to maybe push airlines to
be lax on maintenance,
or fly a plane when they really shouldn't, that sort of thing, to avoid having to pay out the passengers?
But I'm sure there are already regulations that cover that anyway. That have a bare minimum standard for what you must do to certify an aircraft to be air ready. So I think that's already covered. And as we've just said, it's not like these airlines want for cash. So yeah. There's this weird idea that the air travel is completely unique and outside of the bounds of consumer rights. And yeah, air travel is very, very unique. But at the end of the day, you're the consumer. You're paying for it. You're paying a lot of money for it.
It's covered under Australian consumer law as well.
Yeah, exactly. And there's just nothing quite like being stuck in an airport when you just want to get home.
Oh,
it's one of the worst things.
I've spoken a couple of times about last year, almost a year ago now. I was stuck in Melbourne for 2 days longer than I was expecting to be, because we got our flight got cancelled due to weather, which was outside of Virgin's control, and we were bumped onto a flight that was 2 days later.
Yeah.
And so we didn't, unfortunately, get any support from Virgin on that, because
it was the weather did it.
The weather did it.
It's an act of God, right? Even then, I think there is an onus on the airline to at least go, hey, look, this is out of our control, but we also know it's out of your control. Here, let us give you a hand. Let's give you something. I don't know, maybe especially with Melbourne, like a voucher for travel to and from the city.
Yeah.
Maybe if they're not looking after your accommodation, that's fair, but something just to help you out, to make it feel like you're not alone when the air travel gods crap all over you.
Yeah. We've got time to whiz through a couple of more stories, I think, before we wrap up. Again, it's been a lot of news, because we've had a couple of weeks.
I'm tapping the watch.
Yeah, I know. Congratulations to Brisbane Airport! 3 decades since the opening of the international terminal. Opened to the public on 5th of September 1995, replaced the tin shed that had served as the international terminal for about 20 years. Did you ever fly out of the tin shed in Brisbane?
I don't think I did, but I can only imagine the tin shed of an airport at that time smelled a lot of stale tobacco.
Possibly.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was this interim terminal was supposed to last for like 5 years. It lasted
I've been
for
to
20.
Brisbane exactly twice, and I've forgotten both trips. Sorry, Brisbane listeners.
Yeah, it's the people of Brisbane will be sending us very angry emails, I'm sure. But congratulations to Brisbane Terminal,
No, bravo,
Brisbane
bravo.
Airport, 30 years of the terminal being open. While we're in Brisbane, the fate of the final Qantas Link Boeing 717 has been revealed. It has been donated to Aviation Australia for the use in engineering training.
They could have donated it to Australian Aviation.
They could have.
Yeah,
we could use that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Stop having to take those Saabs down to Canberra.
Bingo.
But Aviation Australia, so this aircraft, formerly VHYQW, is going to live at the airport, at the Brisbane Airport hangar for Aviation Australia, and it will offer hands-on experience for students at the Qantas Group Engineering Academy. So they will be able to work on an actual Qantas plane.
That's a noble use for an old bird. Yeah,
it very much is, and it is a shame that none of these, I think, have ended up in aviation museums. Because
it's almost like it's a way too useful piece of kit to just put into a museum.
Yeah,
because
Indiana Jones is spinning in his grave.
But it can be used for exactly this level of practical training that you can't get elsewhere.
Exactly. So well done to Brisbane Airport on that. A couple of weeks ago as well, there was a survey that's come out about general aviation, or a study of studies in general aviation, where basically talking of training, and this is pilot training. There is a significantly higher accident rate in general aviation compared to commercial aviation. Light aircraft account for over 90% of aviation-related fatalities. More than half of these studies reviewed by these researchers from the University of South Australia. They published this in the Journal of Air Transport Management. 46 other studies. More than half of the studies reviewed found human factors in these fatalities, including pilot error, poor decision making, reduced situational awareness.
Yeah.
And this is we've talked about this when we covered the mental health survey. I don't know, remember for this. But general aviation is where new pilots that are going into commercial aviation cut their teeth. Right. Every pilot who is wanting to become a commercial pilot goes through GA.
Right. And general aviation is your little, single engine. Two-seater cabins.
Flight training, charter flights, that sort of thing. It's where you cut your teeth. It's where you get your hours. And it's really, really important that these pilots, learn how to handle these situations, because it's that's where you become a good pilot.
Yeah. Or you crash and end up on the 6 o'clock news.
Exactly. Or in an ATSB report, and you don't want to end up in an ATSB report. No. So they need more recurrent training. One of the co-authors has basically said many private GA pilots only fly the minimum number of hours they need to remain
certified.
Current.
Yeah, okay.
And so, as Michelle Huntington, who we had on the show last week, says in her book, it's basically like you can fly like 1 hour 1,000 times, or you can fly 1,000 different hours.
Yeah.
I think it's I'm sorry, Michelle, I don't remember the exact figure, but it's like, you can, fly up and down the coast.
Yeah.
It's similar when you're learning to drive a car, really, but you can fly, up and down the coast 1,000 times and, get that experience of just flying the same thing over and over again. But what you really need to do is do a whole bunch of different scenarios. I mean, that's why when you're learning, when you're on your L's, you need to do some night driving.
Yeah.
It is prudent. You got to do some highway driving. You should probably do some driving in wet weather. You should drive in all sorts of different conditions, so you are prepared.
Like we were talking earlier at the beginning of the podcast, that experience of coming into Canberra on a windy day in a light aircraft, it's a whole thing. So you need to understand the different characteristics of every airport you're flying into and out of, because they are so different.
Speaking of pilots crashing, we were discussing this earlier, but apparently allegedly a Victorian pilot has been identified in Brazil after crashing his light plane on a known drug smuggling route with a large quantity of SpaceX branded cocaine.
I have no idea what to do with that information. SpaceX branded cocaine.
SpaceX branded cocaine. Now, presumably this was not actually from
officially,
X.
SpaceX
So,
merchandise. It is
pilot-
an Elon Musk company, so who can really say?
Yeah, I mean, maybe he's moved on from the.
No,
ketamine.
surely that'd just be SpaceX branded ketamine. I apologize for my error. Yep.
Yeah, no, it's fools never differ.
Yeah.
But yes, this pilot found dead after flying a plane that crashed carrying 200 kilograms of SpaceX branded cocaine in Brazil.
Wow.
So that's
See, now if this guy had have kept his pilot training up and had those hours at different airports, you know what? He'd still be delivering his SpaceX branded cocaine today, and I think there's something in that for everyone.
yeah, and I don't want to we don't want to make light of the deaths of light aircraft pilots.
No.
But on the other hand, if you're flying over Brazil in a
What was he flying?
I'm not sure what the plane was exactly. It was a light plane registered for some reason in Zambia.
I was going to say what. Yep. Okay. Yep. This all adds up.
But if you're smuggling SpaceX branded cocaine in a light plane in Brazil, it sooner or later you might expect
Something's going to happen to you at some point. That's probably not good for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I just thought that was something that you might want to know about.
Yeah, no, thank you. I feel enlightened by that one. Yeah, I don't know if there's a moral to the story apart from don't fly in Brazil with SpaceX branded cocaine.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Actually, there it is. Cool. What a great way to end.
Well, there is one more thing. There is one more thing I wanted to touch on.
But wait.
And a slightly lighter story than pilot dies while flying cocaine. There was this couple of TikTok influencers, the travel influencers, who in Rome. They were in Rome on a holiday. I think they were American.
Yeah.
But they wanted to fly to Nice.
I heard you talking about this in the office, and I love this. This is
hilarious.
hilarious.
They wanted to, so they were looking to fly to Nice in France, in the French Riviera, for a holiday, and so they booked.
Where do you want to go? To Nice.
Yeah, so they booked tickets, to Nice, and they got on their plane to Nice, and they found that the plane that they got on was not going to Nice; it was going to Tunis,
Yes.
the capital of Tunisia. I think it's the capital of Tunisia, but Tunis in Tunisia.
Tunis, where the Tatooine scenes for Star Wars were filmed.
There you go.
Trivia for me there. Yeah.
So they discovered once they were on the plane, because they had the correct boarding pass. It was like
everything. Yeah.
It was like, everyone, people in the Facebook comments and things were asking, how did they get on this plane with the wrong boarding pass? No, they had the right boarding pass.
Which said Tunis.
Yeah, it was the correct gate, the correct boarding pass, everything, but it was to the wrong destination.
And people would be asking, where are you going? Tunis.
Yeah.
Excellent. Go through.
Yeah, and
it is perfect.
So they had to fly to Tunis because their luggage had already been loaded on the plane. Yeah. They spent hours and hours in the airport in Tunis, begging to, please get on a flight. And they eventually did manage to get on a flight out of Tunis, and they made it to Nice a little while later.
Well,
but
I mean, that's
what's the worst mix-up that you've had at an airport, David? Because I guarantee it's not going to be as bad as that.
It's not. No. The one time I've missed an international flight back to Australia, and it was one of those circumstances where my partner at the time, you know how you go around a trip and you're like, you look after this stuff, I'll look after that stuff. So I was looking after all the travel bookings, she was looking after the flights. We get to the airport to fly back, and we go to the boarding gate. Oh no, that flew away 2 hours ago. She's like, what? And I'm like, what? Yeah, she just got the times mixed up. We just missed the flight entirely. And this was back in the noughties. We didn't have a lot of spare cash. Thankfully, it was payday the day before. So I dropped half my pay on a new flight back to Sydney and on emergency accommodation in Osaka that night. And let me tell you, the bus trip back into Osaka from the airport was just dead quiet for the first half hour until she looked at me and just went, I'm really sorry. And I went, that's okay.
It's kind of how we felt when we had to go back into Melbourne on the Sky bus. But this was neither of our fault. I mean, I've had an Emirates flight where it was late out of Sydney into Dubai, and we had to rush through because I was going to Zurich for work, and I had to rush through the airport in Dubai. Barely saw any. It was just a blur going through the airport in Dubai.
I've had that in LAX before.
Yeah,
where you get off the aircraft, and there's like one really really nervous flight person there. They're got your name. They're like, come with us now.
Yeah, come with me if you want to live.
Run you to the connecting flight. You're just being
but tossed onto this Emirates flight, and you know, on the way there, a very nice flight attendant comes up and says, "Hi, so we weren't able to get your bags on this plane. They'll be coming to. They'll be. Can you let us know where you're staying, and we'll deliver the bags to the hotel tomorrow."
Since that missed flight from Osaka, boy, do I always double check. All of my stuff. In fact, what I tend to do nowadays is I will book a night in a hotel at the airport just so I'm fresh. I'm not rushing from wherever I am in the country that I am to the airport, and it's just a breeze. And that is, like, I think my best travel tip to anyone is to do exactly that. You're not going to miss it at all that time.
Well, I think they've got...
And airport hotels can be nice.
I think they've got, as well, in some airports, they've got like sleeping pods and like capsule hotels that you can,
they
book some time in.
But even so, this is outside of Heathrow, and they've got like a ring of hotels on a ring road outside.
And like in Dubai,
so
they have, the Emirates Hotel or whatever. Like they have hotels airside that you can go and spend time in, which is nice.
Yeah.
But there you go, some travel tips from Australian Aviation.
There you go.
So, get travel insurance. Didn't mention this before, but we had travel insurance in Melbourne, and that saved our bacon.
Yep.
Get travel insurance. Wait to pick your seats until a little while.
Always good. Yep.
Wait to pick your seats. You could get a free upgrade to premium economy and get a night in the airport hotel.
Yeah, good advice. Don't fly with SpaceX branded cocaine.
Don't fly with SpaceX branded cocaine.
We've all learned something.
Is another one. We have all learned something. But I think that's about all the time we have. So thank you to our new permanent co-host, David Hollingworth of Cyber Daily.
And a privilege.
And it's a pleasure and a privilege to have you replacing Adam Thorn on a more permanent basis. Adam who? Yeah.
It's like I can still hear his voice.
Yeah, it's saying things like, all right, and hello, everybody.
You do such a good impersonation of him.
I'm sure he will be coming for me in the night.
He will.
But he's in England right now, so he can't touch me, I presume. But thank you all for tuning into the Australian Aviation Podcast.
You very much.
Next week, we will be back same time next week. But from now, for me and David, goodbye.
Goodbye.